This is Occupy Maine TV on Portland's Community Television Network.
Hi, I'm Brian Leonard.
And I'm Regis Tremblay. In today's show, Antonio Maycomber, a junior at Casco Bay High School, gives us a look at Occupy through the eyes of a 17-year-old. Brian Leonard interviews Jennifer London, who collected nearly 10,000 signatures through her online petition against LePage's proposed cuts to DHHS and MaineCare. And I'll share an interview with Susan Shandel, a Brunswick occupier who in the past 3 years has lost 2 jobs, her mother, partner, and son, and is in danger of losing her home.
Hi, I'm Susan Shandel and I live in Topsom, and I'm afraid I might lose my house. And the bank has been fairly nice. They've said, well, you do what you can do, and I do have a lot of equity in the place. It's all I have. I've lost 3 jobs since 2007, my lover, my mother, and my son. And right now I'm not working, I have no income, and all I can hope for is to possibly sell my house. And I'm hoping I can do that before it's foreclosed on. I supported my family working in social services for 30 years. And since 2007, 2 of the companies I worked for went under. So currently, my unemployment has run out. I haven't been able to find another job in the field. I am working with Occupy Brunswick, and I stand in front of Bank of America every Saturday morning with my son, who's still alive. One of the reasons I do that is because I've worked in social services for so many years, and I've seen economic inequality up front and how people are treated, and I don't like it. Well, I just hope that people will be able to afford a house or even be able to get a job. There's so many cuts right now in social services. I find that there really aren't even very many jobs out there, and agencies are struggling to serve people that they do serve. People are going without. I see it in Brunswick all the time. I work with the homeless. I work with senior citizens. And I've known so many people who have lost their homes. I knew a man who was living in his car with his wife. His children were living with her parents. And they got stopped because he couldn't afford a registration. He got a warrant to go to court, and he couldn't do it. Living in your car, if you can imagine, is very difficult. It's hard surviving every single day. He ended up in jail for 2 nights because he had no money and because he didn't really have the means to get to court on the day he was supposed to be there. This needs to stop. It's not good. It's not right. It's not fair. My grandfather was a Penobscot Indian, and he had to leave Maine in the 1930s. He couldn't afford to live here. He couldn't support his family. He loved Maine. He came back here all the time. And I loved Maine. And I moved back here because I thought it was a great place to raise my kids. And I raised them here in this house. When my partner died, we lost our jobs. I had no money. She said, sell the house. And I said, I want to wait till Jake graduates. He took an extra year of school in commercial art, and he graduated, and that September he was dead. I think it was just too much for him. I think he was afraid we were going to lose the house. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But I have lost so many things and so many people in my life lately that I can't lose my house. All I can hope for is maybe somebody will buy it, or the bank will just give me some time to make sure I can sell it, Or maybe some people can move in and share it with me. I don't know, but I can't. I can't even believe I'm still standing here after everything I've been through. I know a lot of people have been through worse. I know people that have lost their homes who, have had catastrophic illnesses, have lost their jobs. I mean, I'm not alone in this. I know this because I work with the homeless every single day, and I have other friends who have had horrible things happen to them in the past 4 years. So I know I'm not the only one. But I just pray every day that I'll be able to find some kind of solution. Because if I lose this house, I'll have lost everything. And I just can't do that. I can't.
Hi, I'm here with Jennifer Lennon, who's a counselor in Portland, and she's also the founder of the Center for Creative Healing. Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, great. So Jennifer, I wanted to talk to you about some of the work you've been doing in the community with petition drives, the two of them now.
Yeah.
We have some film of an original interview that we did with you around the first drive. I'd like to know what is the outcome of that first drive, and then maybe we can talk some more about the current one.
Okay. When I found out that the governor was planning to cut 65,000 people from Maine Care, I felt like it was a crisis. And it isn't just 65,000 people from Maine Care that he's talking about in his proposal. It's $220 million cut from DHS, which means $220 million of care, of various kinds of health care for a wide swath of Mainers who would be devastated by these cuts. And I felt so powerless that even after I had written a letter and sent it to every person on the Appropriations Committee, I still felt like it wasn't enough. I went to sign on and found out it was actually really easy to start a petition. I just wrote a short little piece about what I see as the devastating impact of these cuts and how it will actually cost Maine more in the long run. When people can't get health care, they don't stop being sick. In fact, they get sicker. And then they wind up in emergency rooms, and hospitals pick up the bill, and then those bills get translated to private insurance expenses. So Mainers are going to end up paying, whether they pay in their taxes or they pay in their private health insurance premiums, which actually would mean that private health insurance gets more and more out of reach for more and more people, leaving more and more people without insurance or needing to get on Maine Care. So it makes zero sense at all. Half of my clients are on Maine Care. That's how they're able to see me. So without Maine Care, they wouldn't be able to come in to see me for counseling. And the Occupy movement is all about an assault on the middle class and the poor. And it's been happening all over the country. And our governor is no exception to that. He actually promised when he was campaigning not to hurt the mentally ill. And these $220 million in cuts from DHS is nothing but an assault on the mentally ill and the poor. This is 1,000 pages of paper of signatures. And the cuts that LePage is talking about is 65,000 Mainers. So this is 1/60. If we thought of a Mainer as a page of paper, this is only 1/65 of how many people would be cut if LePage gets his way. How high would this petition go up if every single page were one of the 65,000? I think it would be higher than the ceiling of this office. So the first petition started off slow and then sort of took off. And at this point, it's somewhere over 9,000 people who have signed, and it's pretty much petered out.
Right.
And the second petition that I started, the first petition was specifically saying, like, don't cut, I forget the number, how many
65,000?
Yeah, right. So the first petition was just saying, don't cut 65,000 people off of Maine Care rolls.
Right.
That was the first one. When I made that petition, I didn't realize that the governor had promised large sums of tax cuts to the top 1% of, well, not just the top percent of 1% of Mainers, but to Mainers across the board. But the tax cuts to low income and middle class Mainers came to $7 for the year or $200 for the year. And for the top 1%, they came to closer to $3,000.
Right.
And you know, to me, it's really clear. And the other thing that I didn't know is that Maine's wealthiest citizens are not paying their fair share of taxes. And so, and I actually have some numbers about that for me are pretty stunning. Yeah. That the bottom 20% of Maine families are paying, for every $100 of income, they're paying $17.
Okay.
So they're paying almost 20% of their income, 17% of their income.
That's right.
For taxes. And the average Maine household is paying about $12% of their income for taxes. But the wealthiest 1% are only paying 10%. So if we lined up, if we had the wealthiest 1% paying their fair share of taxes, we could actually not only solve this budget crisis, but we would have a surplus. And so when I learned all that, I decided that the first petition that I had written hadn't gone far enough.
Right. And
so I decided to write a second petition. And that petition at this point probably has about 3,000 signatures. And what happens with these petitions, I didn't know anything about petitions. You want me to just keep talking?
Yeah, keep going.
I didn't know anything about these petitions
Right.
or writing a petition or any of that before I did one.
Right.
I've signed petitions, but I'd never made one before. And I didn't know, and I did it through signon.org.
Right.
And I didn't know that when people sign their petition, their signature, and if they've made comments, go directly to their legislator, to
Right.
their specific legislator or whoever I've written the petition to. In this case of the second petition about taxes, I also made sure that they're going to go to the governor.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. How much time out of your day does it take to start up one of these petitions?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I started the petition, I was surprised it took much less time to actually write it than I thought. I'm sure it took less than an hour. I wrote it, I sent it out and sort of distributed it by email and on Facebook. Right. And then it got really exciting every time that I pushed the refresh button to see more numbers coming. It's kind of like being at Vegas and watching like 3 cherries come up on the whatever that thing's called. Right. And so the excitement really drove me, and I felt really fired up by all the comments that I was seeing on the petition, and also people who were emailing me through the petition saying how grateful they were that I had taken this up and was giving them an opportunity to have a voice. And it energized me so much. So I'm going to answer the time question. It energized me so much. I did end up putting more time than I expected that I would,
right.
But it felt so good that it was so worth it.
Well, what I loved about the first interview was that you mentioned some women that lived in a retirement community.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to point out that your movement in the positive, let's say, how it creates ripple effect and waves that just continue to go out into the community.
Yeah.
And so what you've done is started this ripple effect, and even if you refresh this on I believe there's 2 women in that retirement community that helped further that drive to people that didn't have internet access or know-how, perhaps.
Yeah. So I had 2 separate calls. One was a woman and one was a man, actually. And they lived in 2 separate retirement homes. And both of them were fired up by the petition. They heard about it through an op-ed that I'd written in the Portland Press-Herald.
Right.
They didn't, I don't think either of them even has internet access, no. So they couldn't sign it. And they wanted to know, like, how could they make this petition accessible to all the people in their retirement homes? And so one of them decided she would just make up a sign-up sheet, and then she would send that in to the legislators.
Right.
The other one somehow finagled it so that I made a sign-up sheet. I made like a sort of copied the petition and made it so that people could sign up, and told him who his legislators were, and who the best people on the Appropriations Committee to get it to. And so he collected about 200 signatures, I believe, and sent those off.
Right.
So that is so exciting to me that that me doing this thing that actually hasn't taken that much time has inspired other people who were feeling as powerless and hopeless as I was.
What do you think the difficulty level from 1 to 10 would be for you and for others to move in this positive way? I mean, it seems relatively straightforward and easy.
Making a petition is something that anybody can do. That's what I believe. Right. If you have trouble with spelling and grammar, you might want to have somebody do a spell check.
Well, sure.
But other than that, it's very simple if you have internet access to make a petition.
Yep.
And Sign On actually has really great support. They've got pages on their website that sort of help you know some ways to sort of get more leverage out of the petition, how to get it out to more people. Yep. And so, yeah.
Thanks, London. You've been a shining example of people in the community taking it on themselves. This is our democracy.
Yeah.
And we need to
take
continue.
It back.
Yeah, take it back. Thanks. Thank you, London.
Hi, my name is Antonio Maycumber, and I'm a junior at Casco Bay High School in Portland, Maine. I've had an involved interest in the Occupy movement since it began back in September, particularly with Occupy Maine. Recently, the media has portrayed Occupy Maine as a dying movement because of the loss of camp at Lincoln Park in Portland. But in reality, we are only moving into phase 2 and are just beginning. In the following segment, you will see the positive outlook of the future from many occupiers in the final days of the Lincoln Park occupation.
Yeah, it's still
126. We're about to move this.
Well, and I think we're longest in the country. You guys need help?
Sure.
DC, I think got invaded by forces.
They got shut down?
I think they got shut down this morning.
This morning?
Very good.
Got shut down.
DC.
So we are now longest.
We are the longest occupation.
That's the longest occupation.
I feel bad celebrating, but...
I forgot to tell you.
Well,
so we're going to get evicted, Evan, on day 128. Yes.
Is there coffee over there?
Yep. Which I think is a good day to get evicted, you know?
Yeah.
2 to the 7th.
What did you say?
2 to the 7th.
Even though the occupiers were packing up camp, they were still positive about moving forward with the movement. As they removed all of the structures that the city had called permanent, like the OM Dome shown here, they kept this mentality alive.
Look at that permanent structure just fly away!
The kitchen tent was probably the most complex of all of the structures. But it still came down easily. Now you will see the views of other Casco Bay students and teachers on what the future of Occupy Maine should look like.
So I think the Occupy movement did a great thing, and that is it brought to the public attention the social and economic injustice that is going on in this country. It brought into the news media words like the 99% and social injustice and economic inequality and wealth distribution. Words that, like, not even a year ago were not even mentioned. And I think they've made their point and gotten enough attention as to bring these topics to, I guess they've gotten the attention to these topics, and now everybody's talking about them. Not everybody in the 99% is willing to occupy. I mean, they have jobs, they have houses that they need to, and families that they need to take care of. So I think trying to get the more suburban, I guess, populace active in the Occupy movement would be incredibly beneficial. I think what the next step they need to take is sort of occupying the minds rather than occupying the city parks.
So I think the future of it will be a lot of effort spent on where they're, like, the physical location and sort of a home base finding, and then after that, hopefully, they'll actually start doing some work. Yeah, my hope for Occupy Maine is that they find a place to be, or they just accept that they can stay sort of in the Meg Perry Center and buildings like that, and sort of work on more activism and less administrative work, like less trying to find out where they're going to be and more actually doing work in Maine.
At this point, Occupy Maine has set up office space in the Meg Perry Center, I believe, and what I would like to see happen is that continues to be a forum or a location or an avenue for young people to go to get hooked into people who are taking action, specific action on issues to make the country better. I think Occupy Maine was one of the most exciting developments, certainly the most exciting development of the year, but I would say maybe the most exciting development in the last 10 years. And it really caught teenagers' attention and got them interested in taking action. So my hope is that the new office space allows is an infrastructure that allows young people to get connected and learn how to take specific action.
I hope that the movement in general and in Maine, continues, and I guess there's two things from what I understand about it. Is there is the political side, which has begun to sort of coalesce, I guess, around certain political ideas. And then there's the cultural side. And I guess the cultural side is the one that I think is in some ways more interesting, because ultimately, cultural solutions probably are more long-lasting than political solutions, and the political system is so dominated by money that it's hard to see a way out of that. But when you have, a shift in the culture, then that is more of a long-term thing, I think. And
right now, obviously, they've spent a lot of time trying to find a base and a place where they can set up for all their protests. But I think the next step for them is to really get the word out and make the community realize why this is an important issue. And my hope is that the community will recognize this as a key issue and join them in the fight.
My hope is that it keeps being visible, because I think it has shifted the discourse. I think that the nation is talking about the 1% and the 99%, and our politicians, the people who are running for office, are talking about that equation, and so I think it has changed the discourse. I know there's concern, I've heard concern that it's not pushed for a concrete piece of agenda? You know, should it be pushing for taxing the wealthy and become, but I think actually what it's doing instead, rather than, because that turns it into a lobbying group, potentially, I think it's changing the language and the culture. And so I think it has to remain visible. So I think it has to stay focused, and I think it has to grow its base. I do think that my other worry is that when Occupy Maine talks about sort of being a collective and a strong community and its style of interaction, which is all beautiful, I think that gets a little off point. I think that becomes so broad and so amorphous that then it perpetuates a stereotype and doesn't get the message out. So, you know, I consider myself a part of Occupy. I consider myself a part of the 99%, but I want to continue to feel that way.
My name is Catherine Hewlett. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Falmouth, Maine. I am a full-time student at the University of Southern Maine. I'm a double major in gender studies and philosophy. In addition to being a student, I am an activist who has been very involved with the organization and facilitation process at Occupy Maine, as well as in New York at Occupy Wall Street. I'm here because I feel like it's my responsibility as the up-and-coming generation moving into a new world. When I graduate from school, I want to make sure that I use the talents that I learn in school to make this world a better place. And by being a philosophy major and studying the way that revolutions happen and the way that people change and ideas change and move and exist, I want to be instrumental in making sure that the way that my nation moves is in, and the way that the globe is moving is in a positive direction that is empowering to people instead of oppressive. I don't want people to get the impression that this is a movement for radicals or liberals or, you know, homeless people or students. This is a movement for everybody to come together and voice their opinions and find our commonalities.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and be sure to share the show with your friends. If you are able to help us financially, you can donate online or write a check to Occupy Maine TV.